All right, so here we are with another Masters of the Universe Masterverse unboxing, and this is another of the figures that I got from Mattel Creations recently. I always want to say Matty Collector because I'm old school, but it's not called Matty Collector. It's called Mattel Creations. It's a completely different thing. But I have from the Masters of the Universe New Eternia Masterverse subset original designs inspired by classic concepts. This is Vykron. Now, if you look at this piece of artwork on this side of the package with Vykron in his barbarian gear going up against these skeleton warriors. This is a very familiar piece of artwork. I believe it's based on a Ken Kelly Conan piece. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. And then we have Space Ace and Tank Top, but he doesn't really have a tank turret for a head anymore. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Vykron and the He-Man trio, this was originally the prototype that was created for the pitch by Roger Sweet, and he took Big Jim and piled a bunch of the Big Jim action figure that Mattel was making at the time, piled a bunch of clay on him, sculpted it into these like, huge muscles, and then he made like three different outfits that this He-Man character could potentially wear. So basically, Roger Sweet's initial contributions to the He-Man legend would be the name He-Man and the concept of an action figure that was bulging with muscles. So he how do I put this charitably? He borrowed a few concepts from an artist at Mattel by the name of Mark Taylor, who enjoyed drawing barbarian fantasy characters. And that became this guy in the middle, the guy that we now call Vykron, but that was the original He-Man. And the other two guys are actually He-Man in a couple of other different outfits. See, He-Man wasn't originally a character like the way that Superman is a character, or Batman is a character, or Luke Skywalker is a character. He was kind of more made in the, I think Roger Sweet's initial idea as to what He-Man would be more in the vein of G.I. Joe, the original G.I. Joe, or Barbie, where it was more like a figure that the kids kind of implanted their own personality onto. So He-Man could dress up in different outfits, and he could be a sci-fi hero, or he could be a military hero, or he could be a barbarian hero. But of course, the barbarian one was the absolute coolest. So that was one they wound up focusing on. And one of the executives at Mattel was like, "Hey, I know a guy who does artwork that looks kind of like this He-Man character. Maybe we should get him involved." So they wound up bringing in Mark Taylor, and he wound up designing pretty much every character in the initial wave and a few that came after. Roger Sweet, of course, went on to be very influential in the Masters of the Universe line as well, and it's almost, I think, kind of a Bob Kane, Bill Finger sort of thing, where one of them was like the real creative visionary, one of them was the guy who came up with the idea. And I don't mean any disrespect to Roger Sweet when I say this, but Mark Taylor, yeah, he was the guy. He was the guy that was really behind everything as far as coming up with these ideas and concepts. So let's go ahead and have a look at our package. It's in a very unusual package since like this is an internet exclusive. They don't have to really display it in the way that regular retail figures are. And here's a better look at that image of He-Man battling these skeleton warriors, Vykron as he's called. And then we got this cool backdrop that kind of makes me think of Flash Gordon or something like that. So that would make an interesting backdrop for photographs. And all this artwork is very reminiscent of Frank Frazetta, who, of course, his artwork was very influential on the creation of Masters of the Universe. He was a very heavily influential figure in that. But like I said, that particular Conan piece was not based on a Frazetta piece. That, I believe, was Ken Kelly, I believe. I had it on a book cover. I think it was called People of the Black Circle or something like that. But anyway, so here's a look at He-Man, Vykron, as he's called now. And but he's very much based on the original Roger Sweet prototype with the black hair and the kind of bucket helmet. It doesn't look quite as much like an upturned goblet as the original one does. And then we have this jetpack over here that will go with Space Ace and the Eagle tank top head and this battering ram weapon, which I believe also goes to tank top, and this axe, which obviously goes to Vykron. And let's go ahead and get some of this stuff out of here. And there's more accessories over here in this box that we'll have a look at. First, let's get He-Man himself off of the card, because I think that will make this a little more easy to deal with. So this character, like I said, is the original He-Man. And when they came up with a storyline for him in the Masters of the Universe Classics version, because this is not the first figure we've had of Vykron, and in fact, the name was created so that he could be called that in the Classics line. I kind of feel like they did him dirty when they did the storyline, because basically they just made him like some gladiator guy. And I don't mind the idea of him being a gladiator because, of course, like, Conan spent some time as a gladiator, so it's kind of part of the character's DNA. I get it. But they didn't even really make him a He-Man. He wasn't really a guy who carried the power sword at all, which I thought was, something that was an oversight. He definitely should have been, one of the protectors of the power sword. And I kind of made up my own sort of backstory for Vykron, which maybe one day I will tell, but now is not that time. So one thing that's an improvement over the Classics version is he actually does have a soft goods plush furry cape, and it looks like it attaches to the shoulders with some Velcro. Lone Dragon says Conan was a gladiator. Was this before he was a writer on SNL? Different Conan, not the same one. If Conan O'Brien was a gladiator, this is the first time hearing about it. So, but I don't know. He's a fairly tall guy. He's fairly athletic. I think he could hold his own, honestly. So, yeah, like he's probably more of a badass than we really suspect. But yeah, so obviously this guy's going to reuse a lot of parts that came with He-Man initially. So he's got those furry boots. He's got the same sort of loincloth with the same sort of belt. He's got new bracers, which kind of cover the wrists a little bit. Really, this version of He-Man should have gloves because the prototype had gloves. And like I said, he's got a new head with this helmet that's permanently attached. You can't take off this helmet. It's on there. Good. He's got a new breastplate, which still has the Iron Cross, but it's a little more rounded on the sides like it was in the original toy. Got those silver square plates on the straps like the original prototype figure had. And like he said, he's got this furry cape. Even though he doesn't have a sword, he does have a little loop that the sword could fit into. I'm guessing his axe will be able to fit in there fairly well also. But those shin guards are removable. So he's going to have another set of shin guards for the tank top iteration. We'll see those in a little bit. This was an axe. It's very much based on Mark Taylor's designs. If you look at his designs for He-Man, you'll oftentimes see an axe that looks like that. I guess they decided to go with something a little more simplified when they, had to deal with the molding process. And then here's the battering ram that'll go with tank top. Let's set that aside for now. Here is the helmet that will go with tank top. And like I said, it does not look like a tank turret like the original one does. It looks kind of like a big metal eagle head with cannons on the side. Set that aside. And then last but not least, we have the backpack of Space Ace. And this will be interesting to discuss. So Space Ace was one, like I said, this was all kind of like kit bashed together from stuff that he had. I'm guessing tank top was probably put together from like a model tank. And most of the He-Man stuff was probably sculpted from scratch. And like I said, He-Man was the most, I keep calling him He-Man, but the Barbarian version of He-Man was the most impressive one. I think I call him He-Man just because that was the one that's closest to what we know of as He-Man. So there's the backpack, and you see it's got kind of some translucent, kind of sparkly wings. Kind of suggests there's some energy crackling through there. But if you look at the backpack, it's kind of vaguely shaped like the backpack that Boba Fett had. And in fact, when Roger Sweet kit bashed Space Ace together, he used parts from Kenner 12-inch Boba Fett figure. So since Big Jim was a 9-inch figure and Boba Fett was actually quite large for a 12-inch figure, he had like a huge oversized Boba Fett helmet. So they redesigned Space Ace so he looks a little bit less like Boba Fett. Lone Dragon says, would be badass if it came with blast effects for tank face. Yeah, I agree. That would be something that that definitely would have been more impressive, but I don't believe that those are in here. So we got some more parts. We got shin guards. I'm going to pull out all the tank top pieces and set those over here on my mouse pad. We'll get on that. We'll do that one last because I think that one's going to be a little more involved, I think. All right. So, and I believe that these are the shoulder pieces for tank top. All right. And put the jetpack in with the Space Ace pieces. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. So, Lone Dragon says, I believe the wings come off of that backpack. We'll see. I'll get to that. I'll check that when we get to it. So, okay, first let's go ahead and talk about Vykron in his barbarian form, the prototype He-Man. This is the one that was the one that really impressed all those Mattel execs. Barbarians were hot at the time, and of course, Mattel infamously had the rights to Conan the Barbarian to do toys that tied into the movie, but they wound up not doing that because it was a very bloody, very violent, very sexual R-rated movie, and they at that time were not ready to do children's toys based on a bloody, sexy R-rated movie. And Remco snatched up the rights to do Conan afterwards and did kind of He-Man knockoff figures, but the filmmakers behind Conan the Barbarian were not pleased that Mattel decided to ditch them and make up their own barbarian hero. And there was a lawsuit, but it was not successful. So Mattel was able to make He-Man toys free and clear. Frankly, I'm glad of that because pop culture is better having both Conan and He-Man in it. It would. I don't think we would be as fortunate if Mattel had actually made Conan toys and the world had been bereft of He-Man. So yeah, Vykron is a really cool looking figure, and obviously he's the rock star of these three characters. I think that he's absolutely the best one. There's no question. This is how I'm going to display this figure, at least until I can get some alternates. I would not mind displaying the suits on other figures. Maybe get some extra Vykron figures. I know I actually did order an extra one from Mattel Creations because he's on sale right now, so I wanted to get another one for cheap. I got this one when he was on sale, and then I got the second one when he was on sale. Lone Dragon says, I've got mine in tank head form, the axe and club stolen from Mechaneck. Ooh, that's a good combination with the that club would fit him really well, I think. Thinking about getting more for a squad of tank faces. Well, now's the time to do it because they're only like $25 on on Mattel Creations right now. So, but yeah, like my original, the classics version of Vykron, I actually took all the tank top pieces and I put them on a spare Man-at-Arms body that I have. And I think that just looks really awesome. So I might try to get an extra Man-at-Arms body to put all these tank parts on. But because with the green body, it just works really well. Also with the classics version, I had the old Bruce Wayne from the Mattel Dark Knight Returns figure, where they had like an unmasked Bruce Wayne, and I put that Bruce Wayne head onto the tank top head to be the unmasked version. I thought that looked really cool. Hey, Sean Franklin's there. What up, Sean Franklin? Hope you're doing well tonight. Always a pleasure to see you. All right, so let's go ahead and have a look at Vykron with some of these other pieces. So the idea is that Vykron was a gladiator who fought in the fighting pits, and that whenever he defeated an opponent, he kept their armaments as like a trophy. So he that's how he's able to swap out between these various armored pieces. And unlike the classics version where the shin guards just kind of clip on there, these are more strapped on here. So I'm having to unhook these straps. And it does seem like that this is a bit more of a rigid material and not quite as pliable as I usually like for these straps to be. So that's not a good thing. So you know what? I'm just going to leave them on there for now because I don't believe that Space Ace has shin guards. So I think he would probably look better if we kept the barbarian shin guards on there for now. So here we have Space Ace's helmet, which is actually attached to the breastplate via this hose, and we can see that it's redesigned to look a lot less like Boba Fett. But notice these plates on the side that kind of curl up, and they got these little discs over the ears, and then the silver part wraps around the back. Does that look a little familiar to anybody? Because it should. So they even though they got rid of that Boba Fett influence, they put some Zodak influence. Even the shape of the goggles is not too dissimilar from the round lenses in Zodak's helmet. So maybe this guy was like an early version of a Cosmic Enforcer, like Zodak. So let's go ahead and put the breastplate on him. And like I said, the head is attached to the breastplate. It seems to be attached on there somewhat permanently. I'm having a hard time getting that hose out of there. You might be able to get it out with a little bit of work, but I'm not going to fool with that right now. And then his backpack attaches, his armor attaches in the back, what I meant to say, with these little pegs, and the straps fit into these kind of, there's actually like some little nooks for them to fit into. Fits in there nice and snugly. And then we can go ahead and pop on the hose, or the helmet, sorry, that's attached via a hose. So the funny thing is, the classics version of Vykron, the tank top head was a separate head that you replaced, but the Space Ace head was a separate helmet. You removed the helmet and hair from the regular Vykron head and put the helmet of Space Ace on there. But here it's the reverse. Space Ace is the one who has an entirely new head, and Tank Top is the one where it's a removable helmet. And you can see he doesn't have the cod piece thing that the classics version of Space Ace had. So let's see what else we got in terms of gear in here. He's got his own wrist gauntlets, his own blaster, and of course the jetpack we saw earlier. And also in this box, I should point out, I'm not really going to use these at all. You're not really going to see these in this video. I don't really have any use for them. But he does have two solid fists, so I'm just pointing out that they're there. But yeah, I want him to be able to hold weapons. So I'm going to keep those hands on him. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to take all the regular Vykron pieces and put them in this box so they don't get lost. The axe and the helmet and these bracers as I pull them off, and hopefully not drop them in the floor. And Vykron's armor. And then let's go ahead and put some of these other parts on here. Set the hands aside for now. And so he's got these two gauntlets, and they both are marked. There's an R on there, so that'll be his right arm. I'll go ahead and get the hand back on there. And I'm guessing that means that there's going to be an L. Yes, indeed. There's an L on the other one, so get that on there. And then his blaster, which again looks kind of somewhat similar to Zodak's if you look at the barrel, the way it's got those, those fins on the barrel. It's a little chunkier than Zodak's gun, a little more boxy. It's got this here, which I'm guessing is going to be some kind of power pack or something. So yeah, in my continuity, this is going to be like an earlier version of a Cosmic Enforcer. This is what a Cosmic Enforcer would have looked like thousands of years ago in the time when Vykron was He-Man. So I'd mentioned before how I felt like Classics kind of did Vykron dirty by not making him an actual He-Man. And in my mind, he is an actual He-Man. And I decided that in my mind, yes, he was one of the Guardians of the Power Sword. That was something that happened in my version. I don't care what happened in classics. This is my continuity. I can do whatever I want. So Vykron's story is that he winds up accidentally going into the future, and he sees a lot more of the future than anyone should see, especially his own future. And in fact, he learns the exact time, date, and circumstance in which he dies. So when Gwildor gives him a cosmic key so that he can travel back to the past, rather than taking a direct journey back to the past and doing all that stuff, he decides to take advantage of this borrowed time that he has left and travel through time and set things right as best he can before eventually he has to return to where destiny is going to take him so that he can face his last battle against the savage gorilla Gygor. So that I did not get rid of his tragic death at the hands of Gygor. I decided that I was going to leave that. His story has to end somehow, and death is kind of the most definitive ending that you could possibly have. So, and it comes to us all eventually at one point or another. You might be a king or a little street sweeper, but sooner or later you dance with the Reaper. So, Vykron is no exception. Despite leading a life of heroics and fighting the good fight against evil and protecting the power sword and all that kind of stuff, eventually he's going to meet his fate at the hands of Gygor. Oh, hey, look at this on the belly of the armor. He's got the vertical line pattern, kind of like Zodak. I keep finding more and more homage to Zodak on this guy the more I look at him. So yeah, early Cosmic Enforcer. I'm telling you, this is what a Cosmic Enforcer looked like during the time of Vykron. All right. So yeah, the wings are indeed removable, as Lone Dragon informed us. So that's pretty cool. So you can have them without the wings on the backpack. And since, like, to me, like I said, it looks almost like they're kind of like filled with energy or something, we could almost imagine that these are energized wings, like hard light kind of things coming out of his backpack. So that's pretty cool. I like the Space Ace iteration of the character. I think he looks really awesome. I think in terms of like the barbarian version of the character, thinking back on the classics version, I think those look about par for course. I think they're both pretty good. I don't have the Wi-Fi on. I need to turn my Wi-Fi on. Hopefully I didn't mess with my. Really cool. I think that the barbarian version is probably about on a par. Come on, there we go. All right, so we're back. Now, where was I? So yeah, I think that the barbarian versions of the character between this one and the classics version, both about equally as good. I do think that the actual soft goods cape is better than the sculpted cape on the other one, especially since that one was so tiny it barely looks like anything. But yeah, I definitely think the Space Ace design for this version of Vykron is superior to the Space Ace design for the Classics version, even though that one does look more like the prototype in a lot of ways. Anyhow, let's go ahead and take all of the space parts off now. We're going to go ahead and talk about the tank top version. So get all these parts back off of him. Set the hands aside. I'm going to need those later. And then we'll take off his armor. See, I fixed it. Everything's fine. It wasn't 6 minutes and nothing like last time. Next time, I just need to make sure that I have the Wi-Fi turned on before I start shooting a video. All right, so let's have a look at all of our parts for the tank top figure. And man, you are just going to be a complete pain getting this buckle off of here. There. Had to get a little savage with it. But it's not the first time you guys have seen me get a little savage with an action figure. I'll get in there, rip parts off with my teeth. I don't care. I'm pretty sure I'm literally a Cro-Magnon throwback. Maybe that's why I like He-Man so much, because I can identify with the barbarian side of the character. So, and Conan. And Conan O'Brien. I think he's got a little bit of barbarian in him. Why else would his parents have named him Conan? They knew what they were getting into. Think he was born on a battlefield too? I don't know. All right, so here he is. By the way, this is what Vykron looks like. It is absolute most naked. So let's go ahead and have a look at all the parts that go onto our tank top version. So he has his own bracers, and those also have an L and an R sculpted into them. So let's go ahead and put those on first, so I can put his hands back on. And see, see where the R is on there. There we go. Now let's go ahead and get his hands in there. There we go. And already he's starting to look pretty cool, because I got to say, I really like this dark green color, and I think it contrasts with his skin color fairly well. By the way, Vykron has his own unique skin color. Like nowadays, most He-Man figures have about this type of skin color that the Revolution Battle Armor He-Man has, which I think is a good skin color for He-Man. But this one's a little more, just a little more tan, a little less orange, a little less warm than the standard He-Man skin color, but a little more tan. So, and then let's see, we got the breastplate, which has 2 shoulder plates. And I'm not sure why they had the shoulder plates removed in the package. And it doesn't look like the shoulder plates have markings to indicate whether they're left or right. I don't know if Lone Dragon's still watching, but he could probably tell me if he ever noticed it, since he already has this figure. There's where they're over the other one. Nope, there's an R. I see it now. Okay. I think the L just kind of blended in with the markings that are already on the back anyway, and I didn't notice it. But yeah, this one does have an R on it. So let's make sure we put those on the right sides. So that's his right side. Let's make sure we put them both on the correct sides. We can't put both breastplates on the right side. That'd just be silly. All right, so I don't know why they didn't put the shoulder plates just on there to begin with, but they are removable if you want to remove them. So tank top's breastplate kind of snaps over where his head would be, and then kind of buckles here on the back with 2 pegs. Time to get glasses, old man, says Lone Dragon. Yeah, probably. I think I'd look good with glasses. I look good with a shaved head and a beard. I really need to go to the barber. I got this George Jefferson thing going on right now. It's bugging the hell out of me, but I haven't had a chance to go to the barber in a long time. So I'm going to try to go to the barber tomorrow. So hopefully by my birthday episode, I'll be looking sharp and have a nice smooth scalp like I like to have. So it seems like it's a little too short just annoyingly too short here. It should be just like a millimeter longer, this strap, and that would make this a lot easier to get on here. But it's just being a pain. And like maybe yours is not going to have this problem. Maybe it's just mine. Maybe just the hole is a little too tight, which is a problem I've had to deal with before. Don't ask. Anyway, there we go. We got it on. All right. So, and the breastplate here, again, they kind of redesigned this to have a little bit more of an homage to a character that we've seen before. And we can see that there's this piece here on the breastplate, which is reminiscent of Man-at-Arms. See how he's got that sort of piece on his breastplate that can kind of cover up his chin. If you turn the figure's head down a little bit, it guards his face. Now, obviously, this is a bit lower on the figure than would be effective to do that with Vykron, but he's going to have a big old helmet on, so it's not gonna affect it too much. So here, it's a little more obvious where we got the L on his shin guards. So let's go ahead and get those on. And those should just strap around his legs very nicely. They don't have buckles on them like the Barbarian breastplate have. They have the pegs and the holes. So we can go ahead and just do that rather easily. There we go. Although I gotta say, I like it much better the way they did it in Classics, where they just kind of clipped on the front. I think that is a better system. But beggars can't be choosers. So we've almost got our boy all armored up here. And while the straps around the strap that went around his waist seemed a little short, the strap around his shins actually seems a little long. So there's a little too much space there, I think. But that's okay, because I think the straps at the ankles will do a good enough job holding them on tightly. So we can still see a little bit of the fur trim sticking up over the armored boots. But that's cool. I think he's supposed to at least have a little bit of a barbarian look. And as I had mentioned before, this is not a removable head. This is not a separate head like the original Classics version of tank top. This is instead a helmet that's supposed to fit over our barbarian Vykron head. So let's go ahead and take that back out. And of course, he's got this little peg in the top of his helmet, so we can pop the head back on. There we go. Fit on very easily. Now, unfortunately, it seems like his hair kind of bumps up against this armor piece here, so that's going to kind of interfere with his articulation as far as the head goes. But now we can get the helmet on here, and you see there's this hole on the inside of his helmet. That's where that is supposed to rest, that little peg. I'm going to open up the mouth on the helmet so I can see a little better. Do that first. And it can only open up so far when the head's on there, though. But I want to make sure that I get the peg hole lined up. You know. A Lone Dragon says, I was going to order from Mattel Creations sale, but Battle Armor He-Man sold out before I got the money. Kind of bummed. Well, sorry about that. Which Battle Armor He-Man was that? Is there a new Battle Armor He-Man? Or is it one of the older ones that they had on the site? So you can kind of open up the mouth there, and you can kind of see his face sticking through. But I don't think that this fits on here like quite as well as it's intended. I think it would have been better if instead of just having a hole where the pin can fit in there, it actually had been a peg that could have held it on there a little more tightly. But it stays on there well enough, I think. It's interesting that he's got a jet exhaust on the back of his head. But yeah, Revolution. Oh, okay. So they had that one on the site, but now it's sold out. That's a shame, because that actually, this is a really cool figure. I really like it. And I actually was thinking about trying to order another one if they still had him up like next week. But I guess if he's gone, I won't have it. I've got 2 of these anyway. I probably don't need to get another one. But good luck finding that figure, because it's a really cool figure. I definitely would recommend that one. So anyway. I hope you get one for a good price. I'll be keeping an eye out myself. If I see another one for a good price, I'll let you know. So yeah, rather than the rifle that the original Classics Vykron version had and the prototype version had, just kind of a generic black rifle. This one has this kind of cool battering ram type accessory, which I think is kind of unique looking, and it does look kind of like also like the Eagle, kind of vaguely saurian, kind of almost like a turtle kind of. They say eagle, but it could also be like a turtle or a lizard or a dinosaur or whatever you want to imagine it is. But it would be nice. I don't think it does. If this jaw could kind of hinge open, that would be cool. And maybe it could have a blaster underneath there, so it could be both a rifle and a battering ram. But it is a really cool weapon. So I don't like this one quite as well as I like the original classics version, because there was something about that tank turret head. And I know it's goofy and ridiculous, but it was goofy and ridiculous in the way that Masters of the Universe should be goofy and ridiculous. So I really liked it. But on the other hand, while this is much different, I think it's also very cool in its own right. And I was kind of bothered that they did away with the tank turret head at first when I saw that they did that. But in hindsight, I think that I think having gotten it in my hands, I think I was maybe judging it a little too harshly on the first impression. But I definitely like it overall having it this way. Would I rather had the tank top head, like the regular tank turret head? Maybe. I would have been fine with it, obviously. But really, the ideal solution would have been to include both. But I guess they can only get so many parts into this figure. All right, so now that we've been through all of the variations of Vykron, let's go ahead and put him back to his default form, as I'm going to call it. The tank top figure is cool, and the Space Ace figure is cool, and I would say that the Space Ace version indeed does improve upon the original. And the Alan Friend, that figure looks amazing. Well, thank you, Max. That's Max Games and Toys is here with us again. So yeah, I think he looks really cool. But my favorite iteration is always going to be the Barbarian iteration of He-Man. I always liked sword and sorcery type characters when I was a kid. I always liked the Barbarian aspect. I always liked Conan the Barbarian. I've read about him in some comic books. I was not allowed to watch the movie because it was rated R, and my mom did not want me to watch a movie that was, full of blood and sex and violence and carnage and, all that kind of stuff. But I would have loved it if I had seen it. All right, so let's go ahead and get the breastplate back onto him. Get him put back together in his barbarian form, because that's how I'm going to want to shoot him when I do the thumbnail. I'm going to want to have him in his barbarian form. Maybe I could get some other Revelation He-Man figures and Masterverse He-Man figures and kind of swap out some of the pieces, and I can have all three of them standing together. Wouldn't that be cool? I think I'm going to do that for the thumbnail, so then I can have all three of our He-Man trio together. Does this one have markings on it for left and right? It sure does. I was about to put the right one on the right hand anyway, so that's fine. So nitpicks, like I said, I think they probably should have given this guy gloves, because he was originally supposed to have gloves. And I don't know why they didn't give him gloves, because gloves would make sense on every iteration of this figure. I love the Mark Taylor style axe. I think that's really cool. I love the soft goods cape. He does not quite have the upturned goblet helmet that the original one had, but that's probably an improvement. And like I said, I kind of feel like the Space Ace armor was actually an improvement over both the original prototype and what Classics did with the character. And I don't feel like Tank Top was an improvement over the Classics version or the original prototype of the character. But I do feel like it's still really cool in its own right and worth having. Now, the prototype version of He-Man famously was holding this axe and two arms, but it doesn't look like it it's quite as long as that axe. It looks like it's about as long proportionally as your standard sort of He-Man axe, but you can still get him into a pose where he's holding it two-handed. So that's good. All right, so now that we have the breastplate back on and the original head back on and the original bracers back on, let's go ahead and put those shin guards back on, and we will have him back in his original form. And then I'm going to have to go dig a couple of extra Revelation He-Man figures out of storage so I can put these other parts on there and I can shoot them all together. It's just for the thumbnail, so it's not really cheating. All right, so we almost got them put back together. And last but not least, this is my favorite iteration of him because, like I said, I like that classic He-Man look. And he almost is like, he already almost is what we think of He-Man as being. If he'd have been blonde, that would have been 100% our classic He-Man. But, a little different. A little more primal with the helmet and the furry cape and everything. A little more barbarian. And He-Man was already plenty barbarian, but this guy's just kicks it up a notch. So in my idea, not only is Vykron one of those original He-Man, one of the earliest He-Mans, he's probably the first He-Man in my mind, since he was the first He-Man in real life. In my continuity, he's the first one to come to the role after King Grayskull himself. And I have a new Eternia Power Sword right here, so we can give him a Power Sword. And of course, this early in the game, the Power Sword wasn't a thing yet. It was fairly late in the game where it was marketing that actually came up with the idea for the two-part Power Sword. But here's what he would look like if they hadn't have made any changes to He-Man from that prototype and just went straight into production at that point. And the marketing guys had been like, "Oh, give him a sword." Yeah, that's what it would have looked like, and he's pretty badass. So yeah. That's our Vykron figure. And I think that's pretty much everything that needs to be said about him. He's really cool. You can get him on the Mattel Creations website right now. It's on sale. Lone Dragon says, "We like our muscly He-Mans." Oh, yeah, we do. I am secure enough in my masculinity to say that I do like my He-Man to be all big and muscly. That's how he should be. It's that male power fantasy. Roger Sweet knew what he was doing when he conceived that idea in the first place. Kids want a big, hulking, muscular dude to put their own power fantasies into. Absolutely, and it worked. Like millions of kids bought He-Man action figures, and it wasn't just the boys either. Girls got into He-Man too. Like my cousin Amy, she loved He-Man just as much as I did. Loved playing with those figures. It was just a cool fantasy world. Anybody could get into it, and a lot of kids did. So I really like this figure. Definitely worth picking up. Go to the Mattel Creations website if you want to get one of your own, or get 3 so that you can have all 3 of them displayed on your shelves together. Right now, I'm about to end this video and I'm about to go dig through my storage and grab a couple of more Masterverse figures so I can put these spare parts onto them and take the photo for the thumbnail. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like and subscribe, all the YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Vykron, both the character in general and this figure specifically. Do you think they did him dirty with how they killed him off and how they didn't make him an actual He-Man in the classics continuity? To me, that's one of the few blips in the classics version that I didn't like. As far as mostly, I think that was a pretty good continuity, but there's a few things that I'm kind of nitpicky about. Like they gave the Tale of Teela origin to the Teela that would have been like the one in the Filmation cartoon, and that does not track with what we know of Teela's origin in the Filmation cartoon, so I don't buy that. So I think the Tale of Teela origin, where her being a clone of the goddess created by Skeletor, I think that's actually Teela Na, the character that winds up becoming the sorceress in the first place. But that's near the here nor there. That's probably an episode we should talk about that a little more when we talk about Tila herself. But yeah, next episode is going to be Dark Lynn, another internet exclusive. This one was one that I was able to pick up on. I think it was one where it was just a general web retailer exclusive. I got mine on Big Bad Toy Store, but that's a figure I've wanted to talk about before. And then for my birthday on Thursday, this is still Monday, right? Technically, yeah. So Tuesday we'll have Evil Lynn. Wednesday, I think I'll open up Hero, since I got that to open. And then finally, on my birthday, on Thursday, we will be opening up something very special. So you don't want to miss that. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that stuff. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this figure. Make sure you hit that little bell if you want to be warned anytime I go online. And hopefully next time we see each other, I will have a nice, smooth scalp. I will finally be able to go to the barber and get this mess taken care of. Thanks for watching. I always appreciate you. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.